And joining us now is former federal prosecutor and partner at Jones Walker LLP, David Weinstein, a national political reporter for The Bulwark, Marc Caputo. Great to see both of you gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Marc, I'll start with you. Does this ruin Gaetz' chances at seeking office again? Oh, I don't know, in Florida, like perhaps governor?
I don't want to say ruin because we're in this new era where things that in the past would ruin someone don't really ruin them anymore. But if anyone says this is going to make things easier on Matt Gaetz, they're crazy. One of the Republican strategists I talked to, who's affiliated with Trump's operation, had said, if you just look at the report, it's an embarrassment of riches for someone who does an attack ad. Like there were some allegations there that he wanted a discount from some of these women that allegedly he had paid to have sex with, where he wanted a customer appreciation was the phrase, a discount. That's the sort of stuff that attack ads are just made up.
Or one of them didn't spend the complete night with him. Yeah, just very odd accusations. David, Gaetz is trying to say that the veracity of the testimony provided to the committee by the then 17-year-old, of course, that is one of the more egregious charges against him, must be called into questions because she is attempting to sue him in civil court. I have to ask you, does that matter at all here?
Well, it's something that a jury would consider, and certainly that the prosecutors are going to consider when they're deciding whether or not they can meet their burden, which is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And so her veracity would be tested by whether or not there's any corroborating evidence. And the fact that she's bringing a civil lawsuit against him, even of itself, doesn't make her any less truthful than anybody else. But it's certainly something that a jury would be considering.
Let me stick with you for a second, David. Florida is a red state. It's probably unlikely, but should Florida prosecute Gaetz moving forward?
Well, you have a statute of limitations issue to deal with, the law in Florida with regard to that. That comes into play. It's not like New York State where there's different statute of limitations. So that really, is not a question that can be answered right now, given the current status of the statute of limitations.
Marc Gaetz was tapped to be AG. We covered this a lot. We talked to you about it. Just today, he tried to file a motion to stop the release of this report, and the court said he filed improperly. Not the most ringing endorsement for someone who wants to be Attorney General of the United States. Do you think Trump is breathing a sigh of relief here that Gaetz withdrew?
I imagine so. I mean, it was Donald Trump, who I reported earlier, had told Gaetz about 8 days after he had announced Gaetz as his pick, hey, look, you don't have the votes in the Senate. It was just going to be too much of a problem. I was holding up my 3 fingers a little earlier to talk about what David was mentioning. Statute of limitations on sex with a minor, if you're over 24 and the minor is 16 or 17 in Florida, is 3 years. This crime allegedly happened in 2017, so that is told. And then, I've been covering this case for, 3-4 years now. But one of the things that both the state and federal prosecutors face is a problem of a relative lack of evidence for sex trafficking. To prove sex trafficking of a minor, you have to prove that not only the sex happened with the minor, but that something of value changed hands. And the minor in this case, or the former minor, if you will, had said in a deposition that she was never sex trafficked. She said she didn't do any sex work, and she technically wasn't even paid, although she got $400 after having sex with Gaetz. So that makes it just very complicated. So a big reason that charges weren't brought is that the evidence really wasn't there.
Let's dive deeper into that, David. The Department of Justice ended its investigation, as Joel Khalil mentioned, into Gaetz. They forgoed pressing charges. Why was that if the committee had so much evidence? Why didn't the DOJ pursue? And does this embolden what Gaetz has been saying in his defense the entire time?
I'm not sure it emboldens what he's been saying in his defense the entire time, but remember, what any prosecutor has to deal with is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, not a civil case where it's more likely than not just tip the scales, or even what Congress has found here, and that's substantial evidence. And so DOJ looked at this. They looked at one of the other cooperating witnesses. Greenberg decided he necessarily wasn't the greatest witness for them. They didn't have enough corroborating evidence to bring these charges, and it was a high-profile defendant who they potentially would be going after. So there was a lot for them to consider, and their determination was, based on what they had, based on corroborating evidence, potential credibility issues with witnesses, they just weren't going to be willing to undertake that prosecution. It doesn't mean that somebody is innocent or guilty. It just means there's not enough there.
All right. And Marc, some Republicans are supporting Gaetz today. Steve Bannon, for instance, said that Gaetz should keep fighting. I have to ask, what are you hearing from Trump world? Will Gaetz remain in the president-elect's orbit? Could he still get a role in the White House?
He still could get a role in the White House, although right now he has a job, or he's going to have a job, as a commentator on the right-wing website or news site, One America News Network.
Yep.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.